Despite her early diagnosis of juvenile-onset idiopathic rheumatoid arthritis, Gaea is a vibrant mother of five who will inspire you to rethink what is possible when you combine faith, mindset, and innovative science. Gaea shares her personal struggles with pain, fatigue, loss of function, and aggressive treatment, and how this motivated her on her own research path beyond conventional medicine to reclaim her vitality and quality of life. Gaea discovered the surprising power of molecular hydrogen and alkalised water, and this advanced hydration technology and profound antioxidant effects, revealing how these simple yet accessible tools transformed her health. Gaea's story highlights the importance of listening to your body, doing your own research, and advocating for solutions that truly support healing. Gaea's journey proves that even the most daunting diagnoses can be softened through mind, body, and spirit, and that a little scientific curiosity can lead to extraordinary breakthroughs. Join us for a conversation that will challenge your assumptions about health, inspire your resilience, and encourage you to explore natural pathways that may just change your life. If you are facing autoimmunity, inflammatory, or a chronic health condition, you're health conscious or curious about integrative approaches to wellness, this episode is for you. And if any of the content in this episode has piqued your curiosity, please reach out. Please note the information in this episode is not medical advice. It is based on the experience of one individual. No health claims are made or guaranteed. Please seek advice from your own healthcare provider before changing any form of treatment plan. So today we're joined with a lovely guest named Gaea, and you might recognise her from a previous episode where Gaea is a mother of five, and she also talked a fair bit about her diagnosis at the age of 15 with rheumatoid arthritis. Welcome back, Gaea.
Thank you. Thanks for having me again.
I felt like that topic we only just scratched the surface, so I thought it would be good to come back on and share a little bit more about it. Can you kind of let us know about how you came to have that diagnosis?
So I was 15 and going pretty hard in academics and in like track and field, and had sort of spent my younger years going to little athletics, so I was a bit naturally inclined to it, and then I'd worked hard with training. When out of the blue, my body just started to fall apart, and I had started with pain in my wrists, and it moved throughout my whole body, and I was sort of taking medication that was pretty heavy to try and manage it, and I'd have like flare-ups and then they'd go away, and I'd think I could go again with, progressing through my, different school level, then regional, then state level athletics. And I found myself unable to complete a 100-meter race at state level. I had to just walk off, and that was where I realized something pretty majorly wrong is happening with my body. And a few months after that, I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis, and it has a very long diagnosis. It was idiopathic polyarticular juvenile-onset rheumatoid arthritis. So it affected my whole body. I ended up in a wheelchair not too long after that. Was taking very, very strong pharmaceutical drugs to be able to manage the pain and reverse some of the severity of the symptoms. So I was taking injections of a biologic drug called Enbrel or etanercept. It was a big about turn in my life that I didn't see coming.
Absolutely not. Did someone in your family have that disease before you?
That's correct. Yeah. So my mum had a cousin that had passed away from the complications that came for her because she didn't have access to the same type of medication. It was very new. The medication that for me that did the most improvement for my symptoms was a very, very new medication that I was it was still in trial phase, and I was part of that trial. So I was able to access it at a subsidized rate because of that. So that was very scary to know that a family member had passed away from the aggressive nature of her symptoms that were the same as mine and headed in a similar trajectory. So was pretty scary.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. You're 15 years of age and, on top of the world, living your life, excelling in sports, and then you find out that you've got something that someone has died from. How were you feeling at that time? Like, do you remember the first days and weeks of visiting doctors, specialists, tests? How was that?
Yeah, it was very unnerving and very unsettling, caused anxiety, just the unknown of it all. I definitely was in a community and from a background of faith that made me sort of feel like I would lean towards more positive thinking to combat the anxiety around it. So that was a really powerful coping tool. So much so that I remember my mum gave me this little book that someone had written. He was like a pastor of a church that had a terminal illness, and he'd written this book it was really like a mindset book in hindsight. And it was really just about, I guess, living your best life even in dire circumstances of very poor health, that you can still be so joyful and so have so much gratitude still for things, and be still a positive person to be around. And I think I might have been exposed to the idea of people, who are in hospital, for instance, and have a more positive mindset, have a better outcome with their health. So I think I really took that quite seriously in the end, because it was just, otherwise the alternative was a bit too harrowing and a bit too overwhelming of like possible death. Like, it was at a young age that's very abstract and confronting. I think for anyone, death is a very scary prospect.
Absolutely.
Understandably.
Yeah.
So, so I really took the whole positivity thing pretty seriously, and was a very happy kid in spite of what I was going through, which kind of came to bite me in the bum a little bit later in adult life, because there was no one there kind of going, it's okay to feel all of these other feelings too, and you probably should actually let yourself feel them, and here's a shoulder to cry on, in the meantime, to not fully sort of suppress everything and mask. So
yes, yeah. So were you around a family that was quite upbeat a lot of the time and positive, and would be always reassuring to you, which is just, it shows that you had such a great foundation and start to life in your family. But as you said, like at times you learn so much. At times you think, well, maybe would it have been good for somebody to say, how are you really feeling today? It's okay to not feel your best, and to vocalize that.
Yeah, definitely.
So the typical treatment plan for your illness is what? Like, what would somebody expect to happen once they've been diagnosed?
So depending on the severity, your first typical point of treatment is prednisone, a steroidal drug. And then it was the methotrexate, which was the chemotherapy drug. And that all is just working on reducing inflammation. And then for me, this new drug, the biologic Enbrel or etanercept, that was for people that were experiencing very, very severe symptoms, that they were sort of then considered for these to join the trials, because I guess they were really desperate and willing to forego any risks that could come about from something that wasn't fully approved yet. Later on that would become a lot more common, and there'd be other types of biologic drugs that would be replicated by other pharmaceutical companies, and that's become a lot more commonplace now to use, but still can be expensive, very expensive, unless subsidised. And I know the government do offer subsidies to people if they're like considering having a family, and
because I understand, like, being a mother, you had to come off a lot of those medications, is that right? And
that's right.
How did that work with your body?
So because pregnancy, your body undergoes so many different changes in your hormones that then affects your immune system, so that your body doesn't see the baby as something that's foreign and create complications there. So most people's bodies go into a type of remission if they have autoimmune conditions. So that was really awesome. That was a really, really unexpected sort of plus side to what would be typically otherwise considered, you know, a rough experience being pregnant. So I had a lot more mobility and strength throughout my pregnancy.
Yes.
Which is a surprise.
It's lovely, isn't it? I experienced that too, and I was like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
This is how you can feel.
Yeah. This is how everyone else feels.
Yeah. And with your healthcare providers, is there usually like other forms of management that they recommend, or a holistic approach to your treatment?
I actually would not be able to tell you about what the standard protocol would be like if you were to see a naturopath, because we didn't quite go that route. We initially tried herbal medicine, like Chinese medicine, and that was very interesting. I was given like teas with bark and seashells, and it was very foul smelling and very, very foul tasting, and didn't do anything for how severe my case was, even though he was very confident that it had been a benefit to others. For me, it wasn't able to compete with just how aggressive I was spiraling. So
having your children, how did you find the rheumatoid arthritis would impact and affect daily mothering chores and activities?
It was definitely like I had to space out intensive activities, like so that they weren't coupled too much all at the same time. So I was repetition on any joint group or even muscles. If there was too much fatigue with the muscles, that would then knock on to the joints. So I'd find that the night routine was possibly the hardest. I mean, initially sometimes you'd have that morning stiffness, so that could become a bit intense, especially once you're having to get the kids all out the door for school, because we have different seasons of homeschooling where there was a bit more like calm in the morning. But the evenings, because it's such a long period of like cooking where you're standing for a long period of time, you're chopping, and then you're serving, and then it's a very big output of energy, getting the kids bathed and dressed, and sort of a lot of energy expenditure of like, listen, you've got to listen to what I'm asking you to do, and then you've got to then go back to that kitchen and clean up. So I know that any mother, like that's pretty exhausting. So sort of having these inhibitions in my body from a pain perspective, and then also an energy perspective on top of that, that was always and then that would then affect my energy levels for the next day. So I often would find that I was saying no quite a lot to the kids with being able to go out and about, like even in the school holidays. I just would notice over the course of, as our family was growing, that my energy levels were impacted the most. And it was kind of a bit like what I would later realize was a bit like a chronic fatigue that I'd had alongside the sort of pain aspect of my rheumatoid arthritis condition.
It's kind of, they go in hand, don't they? Because it's very exhausting being in pain. And it really does affect other functions of our body and our energy for sure. I'd love to know a little bit more about your personal journey and how you've come to find better health in your life and to be able to manage your symptoms.
So in my 20s, my firstborn, I was able to discover through her retesting and my testing that with some blood results that came up for her after she was born, that I was deficient in carnitine. So I began supplementing in this metabolic enzyme that your body naturally makes. Most people's bodies naturally make, but mine didn't. And it was just a precautionary dose that I was taking because it can affect how strong your muscles are, including your heart muscle. So I started noticing a correlation between how my joints were responding to this supplement that was meant to just be for energy to your muscles, and it was actually mimicking the same sorts of results that I'd get from taking my heavier pharmaceutical drugs.
Wow.
And blew my mind, and after researching, I realized I'd come across it in a list before of different types of supplements that you could take to support inflammation in your body. It has like antioxidant properties. And so that was really cool to learn about antioxidants for the first time and the role that played in inflammation. And then not too long after that, that was actually pretty significant. So on that, I ended up not needing to take the pharmaceuticals anymore because it had like a very mirrored effect. And that made me feel a lot better about breastfeeding. And I was able to cancel my rheumatology appointments. And so in the end, I was just very, very reliant on this supplement, which I was like needing to take anyway. So I didn't feel, it felt like a very massive sort of step and like chapter in my sort of arthritic journey. Sorry, my kids are loud. Good. Can you hear that?
Yeah, keeping it real.
Okay.
Yeah, that's just amazing. That's incredible, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just something that's, quite simple and accessible to get can be helpful to you, that you're able to actually get off your medications. But obviously we're also talking about your personal journey, so it may not be the same for another person, but this is really amazing to hear.
Yeah. So from there, I just was always maintaining as best I could a healthy lifestyle. So I would notice for sure the impact of sugar, for sure the impact of sleep and rest, and hydration. And so I was just sort of navigating life much like I did before on the heavier pharmaceuticals, with like upping the dose if I'd have a flare-up, if I might have, had a bit too much sugar or not enough sleep. And then I learnt about alkaline water. So I'd previously come across alkaline diets before. And so I had been exposed to a family member's alkaline water sort of system, in-house system, and would notice that whenever I was like staying for Christmas over a Christmas period, I would have what felt like improved sort of symptoms. And so I looked into it a bit, we got a machine ourselves, and that was kind of like the next step in my sort of adding things to my toolkit, I guess, if you will, along the way, where after having this alkaline water filter for a couple of years, I found myself not needing to have these up doses of carnitine to offset flares, or having to sort of be so carnitine dependent for the arthritis. I was able to just sort of be casual about it for the sake of like preventing any issues around carnitine deficiency for my muscles and their strength. So that all came to a head a few years ago when I visited a girlfriend and was, I guess, apart from the water for a week, and I was really letting my hair down on holiday and probably eating a few too many sweet treats. But the effects of that totally caught me off guard. I had gone to sleep with no telltale signs of any concerns or issues in my body, and I woke up in the middle of the night with just absolutely fiery burning joints across every part of my body, and I couldn't move a muscle. I couldn't even pull the sheets up to keep warm. And when my baby started crying, who wanted, needed to be nursed, I couldn't move her to nurse. I just was paralyzed essentially. And she cried, I cried, like it was a really awful experience. And I didn't want to wake up my friends and their kids. So yeah, we basically cried ourselves to sleep. And woke up, and she was realizing I wasn't coming out of the room. I probably at that point did feel comfortable to call out, and so she was having to lift me to go to the bathroom and to hop in the bath, and it was just very confronting to be catapulted back to the past where my mum couldn't get me out of the bath after that, when things all went south, and then I was in a wheelchair the next day. And so I was now calling the airport, having to organise a wheelchair for my trip home and all of this assistance. And I just was trying very hard to not be really hard on myself, that I'd blown it, and I should have done all these detoxes and cleanses, and I didn't because I was breastfeeding or pregnant. And yeah, it was a very heavy sort of evening into the morning, and my girlfriend was reflecting with me on like what could be done. She knew that I had taken carnitine and alkaline water, that we're close enough that she knew that about me. So she was like, maybe that will help. And I'm thinking, yeah, like sure, that's really not going to do much in this situation. Like, look at me. I'm probably going to have to go back on the heavy pharmaceuticals and maybe more, anyway. So she went and got me the alkaline bottled water just from Coles and some carnitine, and within, I'd say, 4 to 5 hours max, I was shuffling across the floor without assistance, like walking. And within 24 hours, I was cancelling that wheelchair and assistance and all packed up to go, walked the tarmac, went up the stairs with a baby and a suitcase in my,
Wow.
it was like I was in a dream. It was very surreal. And so, yeah, I went pretty hard deep diving, trying to make sense of that whole experience and
Absolutely.
the role each thing had played and like what was happening in my body. Yeah, it was mind-blowing experience.
It really would have been. And I think it's good that you have highlighted just the seriousness and, you know, how debilitating this condition is, to validate women that might be also experiencing it. It is it's serious, and it really does affect every part of your life in a lot of ways. But wow, let's talk about what you've learned. So I know that you were saying the alkaline water from Coles. A lot of people talk about alkaline water as if it's alkalized water. Is that something that you're able to kind of give us a little bit more information on? What are the differences, and is going to Coles and buying the alkaline water, is that enough, or have you got something even better to tell us about?
So, yeah, that was my next sort of chapter that I embarked on pretty deeply. I deep dived because I'd come across alkalized water. Even at the beginning of that trip, actually my girlfriend was telling me about it, and I was like, yeah, I think I've heard of that, but I think it's a bit of a scam. And so this is where I felt very chastened, because I was very quick to discover the difference between alkalized and alkaline water, and the power of alkalized water on top of sort of the alkalizing impact in our body, and that bringing positive results like I'd experienced with the store-bought water. But I hadn't, taken into account the chemical nature of, like, dosing up on too much alkalinity in your gut, and the way that can throw your gut off when it's chemical based. So that's what you'd get in the store.
Okay.
Yes. Whereas alkalized water, that charge does actually neutralize over a period of time. And it's the means by which actually the more powerful aspects of that makes alkaline versus alkalized water so much more powerful is the molecular hydrogen aspect that comes with alkalized, especially electrolyzed reduced water. So that was all a lot of sort of scientific jargon that I needed to break down and make sense of as I was deep diving it more and learning about the effects of molecular hydrogen in the body, and the way that it affects our DNA and cell repair and cell defense and cellular hydration and all the things. So it was quite a deep dive, and I was really blown away. So I'd been cruising on the benefits of alkaline water, chemically alkaline water, and I clearly had a lot of acid load in my body that my body was struggling with, probably from inflammation from the rheumatoid arthritis, and the sluggishness of elimination systems and toxic load, removal being a lot harder. So, I just was thinking, I knew I'd spent a year prior to this big health crisis not reaching for, all of these other tools that I'd used before. So I knew the power of hydration, but I kind of didn't really know. I wasn't really sure what had allowed me to have that reprieve, because it was accumulative, I think, over years. And so I didn't really know, to be honest. It was a bit of a mystery, and I wasn't deep diving and researching. I just was enjoying this sort of year of being able to be a bit more relaxed. And I realized I just couldn't do that anymore. Like, it wasn't I did not want what just had happened to me to ever happen to me again. It was terrifying. So I needed to really not have ambiguous and vague and guessing. I needed 100% clarity, as much as possible, as close to 100% clarity as I could get. So I really went pretty hard with research papers and journals, and like really as hard as I could go, I was trying to make sense of what had happened. And I was, deep diving carnitine a bit more. But yeah, it meant that I was eating my words when it came to alkalized water and electrolyte reduced water being a bit of a scam. And it was very much the opposite. And it was really beautiful, not only sort of, I guess, looking at the big studies that were done, but hearing some personal testimonies along the way as well in my research was really beautiful. That always just makes it very real on a personal level where you hear people's stories. So yeah, I just said to my husband, I was like, Mike, I think we need this machine in our lives. I just have a really good feeling about it. Obviously, it wasn't just about a feeling. I'd done my research. But yeah, my intuition was like, this is going to be a game changer and I'm ready for it. So yes, and I guess it was so significant because it is a bit of an investment. So you have to be ready, to be confident in what you're purchasing.
Yeah, but I think when you have that real personal result where you actually feel it in your body that you are different, that's the biggest selling point there is, isn't there? That it's working, it's doing something that's benefiting you so much. Can you, without getting too deep into the sciences, I know that I kind of know a bit, but I don't retain information. So, what is molecular hydrogen? Why is that so beneficial for the everyday person, but especially for somebody with inflammatory disorders?
So molecular hydrogen is a very, very powerful antioxidant that is able to be consumed in the body. It's like the most powerful and the smallest antioxidant that's known to man. And it is able to be, consumed in multiple different ways, but the way that it's able to be consumed in water with molecular hydrogen is through this electrolysis form. One of the ways is through electrolysis, where it actually splits the water's charge and the atoms, and you have the hydrogen and the oxygen splitting. So then that makes there a lot more available and dissolved hydrogen in the water. So it's a very, very effective way of consuming molecular hydrogen, which is different from the gas, but you do have the dissolved gases in the water that are there. Especially it's beneficial drunk fresh.
Yes,
so, yeah,
it's really like drinking live water, isn't it?
So I know of people that have invested in different technology, it's the same technology but a cheaper machine, and they have had to return it. They have not experienced any of the results that other people had received, or experienced from drinking the water from the Kangen water machine. And they then ended up going and getting a Kangen water machine then noticing the difference. So it was a bit of lost money initially. They were able to recoup that by returning it. But once she started experiencing the benefits of the water after the fact, then she felt a lot more at peace knowing she'd invested in a very high quality machine.
Yeah.
So it's that peace of mind that you're investing in very high quality technology. Like Japan, the Japanese do not muck around when it comes to quality control. So I would say as well that you can't put a price on health. So for me, it's not just like the cost of, I know for others it would be the present cost of, managing their health through different medication, but also just the cost of, I guess, the quality of life that you're living. It's not something you can put a price on.
Yes.
That's sort of for me where it was a no-brainer. Like it just wasn't something that the money became meaningless almost. So.
And especially when you understand how long the machine lasts for. The amount of bottled water that I've bought over the years, I'd hate to add up the cost of that. But this is right there on your bench top for the whole family to use every day. Yeah.
We were using bottled water for a season recently because the filter was needing to be changed, and I was a bit negligent with being, fast to change it. So through that 3 weeks we were having bottled water and tap water. It was awful. Yeah. Everyone, even the kids, were complaining. Yeah. My husband was complaining. Everyone just felt off. Like it was not pleasant.
It's
and
not
like I
subtle.
started I started to feel niggling pain again. That once then that filter came in the mail and we had been drinking the water again, it actually took I want to say nearly 2 weeks for us to feel right again, like to feel back on. And we'd taken that for granted because we'd become so used to it. It's just fascinating how as humans we can just become so not out of touch. Like we just kind of normalize where we're at any given stage, and then we're focusing on whatever's in front of us, whatever's happening in our lives, that we forget about how we're feeling on a daily basis. And you can become normal can be feeling awful, or normal could be feling great, and feeling great had become our new normal.
Exactly.
And so it was really hard to
raised
have a break.
Raised the bar.
Yeah.
And I just feel like
100% worth it.
Absolutely. There's nothing more than we need to put into our body but water, and it's sort of the one thing that we don't always talk about. Well, what's the quality of your water? We talk about the quality of our food, but not necessarily the other thing that we need even more than food. And apart from being something that has major impact on your health and your family's health, do you feel like it's opened other opportunities for you as well?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've been able to share the water with other people just through my experience, where people have been curious and bought a machine. There have been people that have trialed machines and noticed differences, like with eczema and some conditions, but depending on the severity, it's always been so much better for people to just invest in a machine, and therefore being able to enjoy the compound effects of really like weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks of use. So I have family friends that had arthritic symptoms. There was a family friend whose mum had Parkinson's disease, and she had significant reduction of symptoms, where she was able to get back into her fine art and enter competitions again. And that these people are in their retirement years. So it was so beautiful to be able to see that they were being gifted back a bit more of their youth to enjoy their retirement. Like it's pretty awful to sort of get to the end of your working life and not be able to really enjoy it. So that was really beautiful to see. My mother-in-law, they experienced significant changes in their arthritis, so they were able to be active. Like my mother-in-law was walking kilometres and kilometres a day, and she'd moved up here to Queensland, and the move just took it out of her, and she found that she was quite stifled and not able to go on those walks and not able to do things with her hands. It was just really took it out of her, all of the repetitive movement of the move. And she was getting bottled water, like that was our Kangen water being sent to her in containers, and it took a couple of months, and she eventually was noticing a huge difference, and so she bought a machine and hasn't looked back. So it's been really special to share. And then just the community that comes with the product is just, that's a whole other thing that I could speak forever about. But beautiful, beautiful, beautiful community of people who I guess have aligned values and caring about their health, and also caring about, their financial well-being and looking at the whole person and our well-being on a whole, not just our physical sort of capacities. So it's been it's priceless, isn't it? Absolutely. So if somebody's kind of heard about the benefits of Kangen water but is sitting on the fence, what would you say to them? I would say get on a trial if that's an option for you, but also I guess be willing to invest maybe more than 1 month if you can. Otherwise, I would say it's worth, like, you won't have regrets. No. Especially if you have health struggles that are inflammation based. You won't have regrets.
No.
For the most part. I know that there are some cases where people have had certain conditions that haven't experienced significant changes, but typically it's a lot of their lifestyle might not be what is changing alongside it. Might just be the water, or there might be an element to it where it just doesn't quite operate, like the nature of their health isn't due to something that's inflammation based. It could be slightly different. So But for the most part, the number of testimonials that I've heard firsthand, and then also the studies that are out there, I'd highly encourage you to go read those studies and check out all of the research that's been done around it and boost your confidence based on what you're learning through that. That's what helped for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think we can link some of those studies into the show notes as well. So we'll get a few of those together for those that might be curious to know, something from a more peer-reviewed background, evidence-based. But if anyone has any questions about the product or any more about anything that's been discussed on this episode, that they can feel free to contact. I'll link your details and my details into the show notes. So what does life look like for you now in this current season, Gaea?
Oh, goodness, that first school holiday period after having the water. So I'd gotten the water in April, and come October, the October holidays, I think that's right, September, October, I was out almost every day at the beach with the kids, and that was unprecedented for me as a mum at any point of motherhood. And it wasn't until the kids were back at school and you sort of like slump in a bit of a like, whoa, what was that? Like the craziness of the school holidays. And I was like, hang on a second. Was I out and about almost every day? Like, who even am I? And at that point, I already had realized there were so many like improvements. Like I can cut corn and like I can cut watermelon and just like seems so silly. But for me, I was like filming it and like I'm like, really capturing this memory forever. And like running again, being able to go to the gym for the first time without worrying about backlash the next day. Because during, you might feel like you're great, but because you with gym, it's like you're working the same muscle group and the joint that's connected to it. And so I would always have a flare up if I was like too active. So to be able to go to the gym and feel confident that I was like, I can't explain how good it felt. Like that, I could sort of enjoy now for the first time what you hear people talk about, that high that you get from really, really working your body. And I was like, I just felt had a new lease on life. I felt like I was in my teens again because I was so used to being active. That was such a big part of who I was. So
what a beautiful story. Yeah. And so I'm so happy to hear how, your life has how you've come out the other end with a success story and to share that with us and to give hope, I guess, to other women and mothers that might be facing similar things, not to say that, they're going to be cured of whatever condition or illness that they have, but also to share a story that is hopeful and gives a lot of joy. I've enjoyed talking to you.
Oh, thank you for having me. Yeah, it was whenever I've shared my story with people, it's always such an honor to inspire people to, like, different parts of my story will speak to someone on their journey and be something they can take away and try out. And I don't want to like make any promises or anything, but I think that there's always so much we can learn from each other when we tell our stories. So thank you for letting me share.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's very powerful. Thank you for your time.
Oh, thank you. Bye. Good job.
Bye-bye. I trust that you enjoyed this episode. Postpartum is Forever is a podcast that is focused on honouring the mother. My wish for you is that you feel more aware, less alone, more empowered and a whole lot kinder to yourself in your mothering. Your support means the world to me, and so I would be grateful if you could follow me on my Instagram page, Postpartum is Forever Podcast, and share this podcast on your socials. Rate and review this podcast on whatever platform you're listening from, and subscribe so that you never miss an episode. Big love.